Talk about the powers in all of these cities that lobby for these games. Who wants them in their city? I mean, in Nagano, is this right? The Winter Olympics, they've burned their records.
Yeah, they burn their records in a lot of places. They burn the records in Atlanta as well. I mean, you always have a destruction of the records afterwards to find out what actually was done. And the head of the Atlanta bid, a gentleman by the name of Billy Payne. I mean, it's interesting. You said the thing about not some people benefit perhaps from the Olympics coming. One of the jokes out of Atlanta in 1996 was that the person who benefited the most was Billy Payne because he got membership at Augusta National Golf Club. The other joke coming out of Atlanta in 1996 was that the only project that was built on time and under budget was the prison that was built specifically for the Olympic Games. But no, corruption and graft are as a part of the Olympics as apple pie. I mean, there was even a huge corruption scandal when the Winter Games came to Salt Lake City. I mean, in Utah, for goodness sakes. So you had a deep amount of corruption even there. But everywhere you go, I mean, it's a system of bribery. It's a system of graft. They've tried to do reforms in the International Olympic Committee, but only because the stories of hookers and drugs and perks and benefits, like in Salt Lake City, they found out that someone had illegally bought $1,000 worth of Viagra for an International Olympic Committee official for the portion of his stay. I mean, this is the kind of people we're talking about. This is the kind of quote-unquote business we're talking about. And it really is something that's as dirty as the day is long.
And also the issue of land development, because obviously in all of these Olympic Games, you have to erect new structure, you have structures, you have to erect housing, and you usually have to clear away a portion of a city that formerly was used by its residents for other purposes. How does land development and real estate developers play in your examination of previous games in other parts of the world?
This is what I would say to Michelle Obama if she was here right now. I would say, Mrs. Obama, how much would you have liked the Olympics in Chicago if you still lived there and you actually had to leave your home because of fair use laws to make Olympic Village or to make a new Olympic stadium? That's the disconnect of why I call this Obama's Olympic error, by the way. But everywhere you go in the Olympics, chapter and verse, you see that kind of displacement. The most grotesque example was Beijing, where 2 million people were displaced from the capital city, and where people were arrested and got indeterminate jail sentences for passing around petitions that literally said, this is what the petition said, they said, please don't kick me out of my home. And that petition was against the law. It was seen as an embarrassment to the Olympic effort. But it's not a Beijing issue. It's not a totalitarian China issue. I mean, 30,000 units of public housing in Atlanta were destroyed. In Los Angeles, people were out of house and home. And ironically, one of the ways that Chicago is selling its bid is that this displacement has largely already taken place in Chicago. The Robert Taylor projects, Cabrini Green, you've already had these huge housing developments that have been torn down to make way for gentrification in the city of Chicago over the last generation. And now they're selling it as a way to say, hey, we've already displaced our people, so we're construction ready. So, I mean, it just speaks to one of the noxious nature of the Olympic Games.
Right about the No Games Chicago organizer, Allison McKenna, talking about how much money, regardless of Chicago gets this, has already been spent, and how much money Chicago is losing right now, or in layoffs and cutbacks.
Yeah, and it's worth saying, my sister lives in Chicago, my beautiful niece and nephew live in Chicago. It's a city that's very dear to me. So to me, this whole movement and what people like Allison McKenna are talking about, it's about a movement of people who love Chicago, who are trying to defend Chicago, defend a city that's $500 million in debt right now, and yet they keep saying that they have extra money for the Olympic Games. And it's such an interesting thing because when people in Chicago, like Allison McKenna, say, where's the money for schools? Where's the money for social services? They're told again and again and again, the money is not there. This is a recession. We have deficits. And yet when it comes to the Olympics, Richard Daley, it's like underneath his carpet. He's like, hey, wait, another $500 million. Great. This is now part of our bid. And they keep finding money when it comes to the Olympics. And that has to do with the power of the real estate lobby in Chicago. It has to do with the power of developers in Chicago. And it has to do with the power of the daily political machine in Chicago. That's what protesters there are up against. And their task is urgent because I really do think it affects all of us, coast to coast.
Dave Zirin, I want to thank you for being with us. He's author of a number of books. His latest, A People's History of Sports in the United States, a regular contributor to The Nation magazine, has a weekly column called Edge of Sports. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report.